So in this part of the chapter, we're going to talk about the idea of case structure and giving choice to the user with regards to what do they want the application to do. And so we will frame this out in the idea of giving the user a menu of items to choose from, and based on that choice, it will then perform a certain set of actions. Okay, so this case structure provides the opportunity for user choice. And in this case, maybe not all submodules will necessarily execute. It can allow for repetition of the program without having to re-execute the run statement. So we'll be able to re-loop our program and kind of bring it back to that beginning place so that the user maybe can choose another different action to take for executing the application. So first we have to define what is a submodule. And a submodule is a specified section of code that performs a specific task. It's a segment block of code that I might jump out to execute a certain task, but then I need to return from in order to go back and pick up where I left off. So what happens is program flow is sort of rerouted to a submodule of code, and then again to perform a specific action. All modules that we reroute to must flow back to where it was called from, or what we will call the control module. So we do have a keyword. The keyword return is used to return the flow back to the line of code that called upon the submodule. So when we're using a menu choice, we will look at this idea of this hierarchy chart. And so the hierarchy chart kind of gives us a layout as to what is the relationship of the submodules within the program itself. So the hierarchy chart, my menu will derive from here. We also will call him the control module. And so all decisions, that's sort of like the home page of an application where you sort of get to choose what do you want to do. And then from there, after you make your choice, the program's going to flow out to that choice. It's going to execute a series of lines of code, and then from there, it will hit the return, and it will flow back to the control module, where the user gets to choose another choice, and maybe they'll go on to another executing block of code, for which will be terminated using the return, which will return flow back to my menu, my main set of choices. So in this example here, we have this rental car agency app from the airport. And when the user comes into the interface, they'll be able to choose, a set of hotels that they want to be guided to while they're working on getting their rental car. And so let's say they chose the Excel hotel, and so that click of a decision brings it out to the Excel hotel portion of the code, and from there maybe it's directions to the hotel, maybe it is what are the amenities within the hotel, the ability to book a room from the hotel, and then when the user's done with that, they return back to the main menu for the rental car agency application, where they can go on then and choose a different option from there. What needs to be noted here is that in this option, the user, I'm just trying to get a different color pen, the user can't jump from here, can't jump from here to here. All right, they have to return back to here. And if they want to get to the Briar Hotel, then they have to do that from the main menu of the program. We can't be jumping across that we get caught deep into our code and can't make our way back out to the menu. Okay, so menu choices of the hotels, maybe not all submodules will execute because the user did not choose. I can't choose all of them at once. Rather, I can choose one at a time. So let's say I knew I wanted to go to the XL Hotel, then the other 3 submodules will never execute in this hierarchy chart of menu decision. So how do I code the case structure? We do need a keyword on, and I have 3 little dots, go sub, because this section right here will be filled by a decision, a test, let's say, before it knows where to go. So based on user input, the program will choose which submodule to execute. The choice variable must be of integer type, and you cannot use a string. So on choice, that choice variable will go here in this execution. So on choice, it's going to go sub, meaning go to a particular submodule. So the general form would be a line number, the keyword on, a relationship. So this is going to be a variable. Okay, the relationship is a variable. I can use the word choice. I can use anything I want as long as it's of an integer type. Okay, it has to be numerical. Okay, but numerical in that it has to be a number. It will go sub, meaning it will go to a submodule, and then in this case we're going to have a whole set of lines, okay, based on what are the possibilities that it can go to. So let's take a look at an example. All right, so let's say in my code I have it printing menu choice 1, menu choice 2, or menu choice 3, but also the opportunity to quit. So the user is going to input a menu choice, and into that input, based on what we remember from the last chapter, okay, C is going to take on the number of 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make this menu choice 4. So they're going to have one of 4 options. The first 3 will take them to, maybe one of the hotels was the menu choice, or the opportunity to quit the application. So this is going to be of integer value. Now, what happens here is these guys here take on order. So based on the value of C, it is going to, there should be another one here, it's going to choose one of these 4 options based on the value of this C. What did the user choose? So if the user chooses 2, then it's going to come over to the second line number, and it's going to go to line number 2000. This is a line number. It's going to go to line number 2000. It's going to execute the code in that submodule. And when it's done executing all of that code of the submodule, it's going to hit the return, which is going to bring us back to this menu. Okay. Let's say, the user comes back to the menu and they want to go to option 1. So C will take on a new value of 1, and when it executes on 1, go sub, it's going to choose the first slot of line numbers. And then it will go out to line number 1000, execute the body of that submodule, and return back to the menu, okay, when it hits the return value. And it will allow the user to offer a choice again. So you can see we're able to reuse this program over and over again now. If the user wants to quit, it chooses option 4. Option 4 is where that end will now appear in the program. So C has to have an integer value. We have on the integer value, it will choose one of the line numbers. These line numbers have cardinal order delineated by the comma. So if C is equal to 2, the flow will execute to go sub 2000. Now, what you need to keep in mind is I do need enough line numbers options as I have menu choice options. Okay, otherwise we will execute a logic error while the program is running, and actually we end up crashing the program at that point. These line numbers are arbitrary to what you create as that first line number for the submodule, and we'll see that shortly. So here's an example of a program laid out. I don't have executing code in it, but we do have that menu choice put in there. I really should have this 4000 in here, with the idea that this is modular format. These are my little sections of my submodules. So if I'm using my last example, if the user chooses option 2, then C takes on that integer value of 2. And so on 2, it's going to choose the second parameter here, the second value, which happens to be line 2000. So the program is going to reroute its flow. Instead of going line by line, it's going to reroute its flow all the way down to line 2000, skipping over that first menu choice submodule. It's going to execute the body of that submodule, where the last line of code here is going to be a return. And when it returns, it's going to return the flow back to where it left off. And we will add a line of code shortly here so that it goes back up to my menu. The user gets to choose again. And you can see where we're able to choose then multiple times based on user choice. Couple ideas, just kind of miscellaneous and cleaning up for this chapter. We have the colon operator here. What it allows me to do is, I hate to say it, create sort of a honey-do list, that if grade is greater than or equal to 90, not only will it print A, but in this case, I'm using a keyword go to, and it will also allow me to skip to line 500. Now, I can put a print statement here, a second print statement. Okay, I can put a let statement here as well, but a go to also. Anything that I would normally be able to put behind a line number as a keyword, I can put as a second option. So this allows me to perform 2 keywords in the same line of code. And again, in this case, it only executes if the then happened to execute. If this were false, it drops out. But I can also put this idea with the colon operator behind a line number and be able to perform 2 tasks, but we do it very limited. The go-to statement allows me to change the flow of the program. It's not like the go sub. We use it very sparingly, but it allows me to skip over a line of code under a condition or jump away to something. And so again, the idea at line 300, if it executes, it will tell it to go to 80, which is bringing it back up to another line of code in the program. So to execute a repeat of the entire program, we're going to use what's called the in-key keyword. This is a keyword that builds a pause into execution, and it waits for the user to press any key on the keyboard to continue the program flow. Place at the end of each menu's choice submodule to return control back to the key. And we'll see this take place when we code this in the lab. And so the 3 lines of code would be as follows. We would press any key to continue. The user then would press any key on their keyboard. And what this test is it's sitting there and waiting for the keystroke to happen. Okay, the in key is waiting for me to press anything on the keyboard. What it's doing is, and we can see the colon operator, while it's waiting, it's testing to see, as long as this is empty, as long as nothing has been assigned to the $sign using the in-key keyword, then it's going to go back to line 10. So it's creating what we call an infinite loop, and it's just sitting here waiting. So as long as nothing is pressed, and that's what the empty quotation marks is indicating, as long as nothing is pressed, it's going to go back to the beginning of line 110. Once I hit anything on the keyboard, it fails this test and drops to the next executing line of code, which is that return that we talked about in the case structure, and it allows me to return to the menu. So the line numbers here must match. That's a key understanding for this idea to work. We have a sentinel value, special variable to flag